All right. So let us begin this morning. The hostess for today will be Rosetta Howard Jackson, and I'll ask her to take it from here.
Thank you so much. Okay, good morning all. And welcome to Understanding IRS Form 990 Easy, a community education workshop for grassroots nonprofits. Legal Service Corporation is an independent nonprofit established by Congress in 1974 to provide financial support for civil legal aid to low-income Americans. The corporation currently provides funding for 134 independent nonprofit legal aid organizations in every state, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories. It is the mission of legal aid to ensure equal justice for low-income people through the provision of high-quality legal representation and to improve the lives of low-income Texans through the rule of law. Legal aid focuses its practice in the areas of support for families, preserving the home, maintaining economic stability, safety, stability, and health, individuals with special needs, and problems affecting groups of individuals. Back in 2008, when the bank's subprime mortgage lending practices caused the market to crash and the government to bail out the financial industry responsible for the problem, in the aftermath, those banks were required to pay fines. Those fines resulted in funding that was allocated to help the communities affected by the financial misappropriation through legal aid. Legal Aid of Northwest Texas runs Community Revitalization Project, which provides free legal services to underserved communities through the support with fair and affordable housing, environmental justice, and community education. What we are doing today is part of the work by developing nonprofit capacity in each of the groups that are represented here today. Your presenters today, your facilitators today will be Eliezer Velez, who is legal secretary, Sam Prince, who is the director of development, Nancy Yakowitz, who is a staff attorney, and Rosetta Howard Jackson, who is paralegal. The agenda consists of first, we're going to review the IRS Form 990 Easy, which was presented in our last workshop. It was recorded, so if you need the link, we can send that to you. Secondly, we will do the online filing platform and review all of the parts of the form. Third, we will go over the Q&A, and during that time, we will also do the get to know. So each community leader has an opportunity to share the work they do, what zip code they service, and how they're moving forward because of or in spite of the pandemic. And so next we'll start with Eliezer.
Yes, thank you, Rosetta. I want to, the individuals that have arrived after we started, I want to let you know that we'll have a moment, as Rosetta said, to get to know everyone. I want to thank you for your time this morning. We're going to be as concise as possible. We will be going over the form, IRS 990 EZ briefly, and the substance of the workshop will be on how to input the information into this online platform. So I'll just get right on it and basically explain that the form consists of, I think, about 6 parts. The first part is part A through L, which is the information concerning the organization. If you see everything in yellow, this sample that we're going to be providing you with, that you should be concerned with the areas in yellow. It is very unlikely that any nonprofit that is in this group, that is a grassroots nonprofit, will have a lot of these different non-highlighted items. So we're not going to cover everything because we don't have that kind of time. So if anybody has any question on any item, please put it on the chat. But we will be basically reviewing the revenue expenses, changes in net assets or fund balances. That's an important all of this form is important, but understanding the revenue, expenses, and net assets, the balance sheet. We're going to go over what Schedule O is, liabilities, and we're going to have a. I'm sorry about that. We're going to have a segment where we're going to ask our community if you have any type of service accomplishment that you would like to share with us pertaining to the whatever your largest service, what you've done in the community, how many people you served, what zip code, things like that. We'd like to hear about it, and we'll show you an example as to how to present it on this segment when we do the online portion. But I want everybody that's here to feel comfortable in saying, hey, we are doing this in this part of the community. In spite of COVID or because of COVID, this is how we have to do things. And so that's what goes in this area, the statement of program service accomplishments, which is something that should excite the nonprofit in putting the information in there, because that's not just numbers, that is information that sells what you're doing to potential donors. We're going to go over the list of officers, directors, and trustees. Uh, we're going to go over other information. There's a lot of questions. Well, again, what we said in the last review of this form was the IRS is looking for information from all the nonprofits that are 501c3. There's a lot of different ones that have to file different things based on what they are. If you are a grassroots nonprofit, it is very improbable that any of these will be a yes. There could be, but sometimes if you put down a yes, it may require that you file another form. Or grassroots nonprofits don't deal with a lot of the items that are in these. You need to, in your own time, read what they're asking, but be aware that we're going to only be covering the ones that are highlighted. We also, again, are going to provide you with a sample form that has annotations to remind you of all this. This is part of the previous one. This is 42A, so the previous one was 41. And the last section here is just general information as to how much you're paying your directors. If you're paying anyone more than 100,000, if you're paying an individual that's a contractor more than 100,000, they want to know. And did you complete section A? If with the form, you don't have to worry about clicking anything here. With the online program that we're going to be presenting today, it'll do it automatically. But I just wanted to say this is the actual form with its 6 parts, and somebody who can sign would sign here and then either mail it to the IRS, or if you do it online, then what you do is you go to this portal. Basically, it's an IRS approved tax e-filing and mailing platform. It's free if your gross receipts in cash are under $100,000. All right, I'm just going to go over this very quickly. When you came to our previous workshop, you were instructed on the 4 steps of registering. We're not going to do that now. We're just going to say when you get here, you either register or you log in. And then after that, you get to put in information about your organization. I made this one up for testing purposes for what we're here today. So our organization is My Testing Nonprofit. And this is the all this information I made up. And so I am ready now to, from this online place, begin to put in my tax information for this tax year, for this EIN, which again, I also made up. One person needs to be a signatory. So when you sign on to this, it'll ask you, are you able to sign this return? If the answer is yes, then you can sign the return. If you're just putting in information for the nonprofit, then the answer is no. Somebody else needs to sign for this. When you register, you are able to get multiple login numbers, and they start with your EIN, and the last two digits depend on how many people are able to enter into the system. Now, today's session is navigating the online platform, and I feel that it's taken me forever to get here. So oh, we'll do that later. Let's first do the presentation, and then, so as I said, you end up here when you register, log in. This is my information. It's already in my computer, so I'm going to skip a lot of these informational items. Uh, so there's a lot of notices that deal with different things. Here, when you first come in, you create a new filing. This wouldn't be here when you start. But once you create a new filing, then you've already told it the year you want to file and start and end date, the type of return, type of filing it is, and the form that you're filing. Uh, we're in edit mode because I haven't finished it. So I'm going to just click on that icon that you saw there. I'm going to briefly explain here that this brings you back home to sign off and on. Control panel is the previous page, excuse me, that we were at. Status page is the status of your filing. When you verify your filing is, are there any errors in this filing? So when you put in all your information, you come back here and you say, how's this filing doing? And it'll tell you all the places where you've not put something in, or you have an error. Then you can generate and view your PDF files. Having said that, the next tab, if you're familiar with the form, you click on this portion here, and okay, and it'll give you this tab here. See, I clicked here and it opened up a new tab with all of the forms parts. A through L is the organization information. Part 1, the revenue, expenses, and net assets, balance sheets, the statement of program service accomplishments, uh, who are the officers, and then all the other information which I mentioned, that grassroots nonprofits that are represented here are likely not uh, going to answer yes to most of these questions, or to I'd be surprised if to any of these questions, but you should always read them and know what the questions are. And then part 501c3, this is basically just information pertaining who's getting paid over $100,000. And then the signature section. And because it's past the tax filing, I'm sorry, there's somebody waiting to come in. Okay, sorry. Oh, okay, all right. Sorry, hold on a second. Sorry. All right, because it's past the tax filing, the system will require that we put in a reasonable cost why we filed late. We'll get into that later. So you don't want to file late. Um, Here, I just want to go back to this. And once we're in here, if you need to document that you get your public charity status and support from the public, is you will file Schedule A. You may need to file Schedule O. And anything that you need in the actual form, you'll find it here. So let's get started doing the general input. I'm going to go skip a lot of these things, just mention a few things briefly. More than one person shouldn't be using this at a time. If somebody makes a change and then goes out, and then another person makes another change and then goes out, whoever went out last will save the changes. So you just have one person sign at a time. If you make under $100,000, you don't need to worry about this. If you have a coupon code because you have to pay, you can put it in here. I've never seen one used. You can tell the IRS if you want to e-file or if you want to do a US mail. When next year comes around, I will not be able to e-file this filing because it would be 1 year behind. So I would only be able to do US mail. Obviously, we're not Michigan, and you may give permission to the people that run this platform to use your publicly available information just for whatever marketing or services purposes they would like. The first segment of the organization, which is the name and where it's located, of course, the EIN. So once that information is in here, you keep going. You don't have a group exemption. Move this out of the way. Normally, nonprofits are working on an accounting uh, cash method. So you click that. If you do anything other, then you would know and just click otherwise. Uh, if the organization receives, this is one of the most important things on this segment, if the organization receives in excess of, or at least, or in excess of $5,000 by any one contributor during the whole year, then you have to uh, include attachment B. Attachment B requires that you provide the name, address, the amount of funding of an entity or individual that donated over the course of the year more than $5,000. If you do not check here, the system is going to say, where is the Schedule B? Because this organization that I made up it didn't have more than $5,000 donated by one person. I clicked here. So there won't be an error. Let me see. The type of organization is a 501c3, so I check here. The structure is a corporation. If you're incorporated, if you're an association, you can do that. You can, click here. If you're other, you would know what that is. Now, this number that you see in the gray comes from information that I put in after the fact. So when you first start, this number would be blank because you haven't put in any information about your gross receipts. That just shows there. So this is where you put in information, which is part one. Let me then show you the form that I want to reference to hopefully make things clearer. Let me just do this. Right. So I mentioned before, part A through L, just general information as you know. Now we are in the revenue, expenses, and changes in net assets or fund balances. So everything that's in yellow here is where we will be doing inputs here. So if you see a lot of zeros, I'm going to just get rid of that zero just to show you something. I determined that through my accounting of all the funding that came in, we received 55,000 plus dollars. We also sold an asset for $10,000. It cost us $2,000 to sell that asset. It was a van. We had to invest $2,000. I'm making this up, but the van cost us $2,000 to repair so that we could sell it for $10,000. So the gain is $8,000. So that's what this is about. So that could happen in a nonprofit setting where you have an asset that you are going to sell and you have to invest money to get it ready or to move it somewhere so that you can get the actual gross amount and of course then the net amount. Gaming, I'm not going to get into any of this. Just know that, I mean, you could have a bingo event once in a while, but you can't be doing bingo or games of that sort in nonprofit. Um, it can't be your main source of fundraising. Uh, so basically, sell of inventory. If you sell any inventory, we've mentioned before, if you have a thrift store that gets donations, well, that will be your inventory. And then if you have to pay to move or repair or whatever, the inventory, you would put how much it will cost you. Or if you had to pay for whatever donation was made for any kind of situation where you had to dish out some money, you would put down how much it cost you, and then the system will figure it out. My organization doesn't have inventory for any kind of reason, so this is all no. Other revenue. So I was going to ask uh, Sam to chime in. We have spoken yesterday about other revenue. This is something that I came up with, but I wanted to know if Sam could give us any other examples of any other revenue that we could include here.
Any kind of an event that you run that generates a profit could be considered other revenue. in-kind contributions, that's contributions of things as opposed to money or items that can easily be converted to money, are a whole different area that the IRS deals with. Essentially, when someone gives you something, you should credit your financial records for the gift in the form of the value of that item.
Oh, wow.
Now, when you do that, the best policy is to always ask the donor for the value of the item that they're giving you. You can then go online and compare whatever the person has told you with what market rates are to better adjust your financial records. But the one thing you should never do is put on paper that you accept the gift of X, which is valued at whatever dollars the person has told you. Because at that point, the IRS can then come to you and say, what did you use to determine the value of this item? And the donor is no longer responsible for appraising the value of that item.
Right.
Tax laws say that the donor is responsible for securing an appraisal of the item that they then donate. So you want to stay out of that chain of communication. The easiest way to do that is to send a form of some kind to the donor, asking them to fill it out and indicate the value of the item that they donated. That's what we do at Legal Aid.
Thank you, Sam. We actually have templates for in-kind donations and also for professional in-kind services. So feel free to reach out. Everyone that's been in our mailing list already has all this information. If you can't find it, let us know. But I want to thank you, Sam. So yes, anything that should be reflected as a donation into your books. In this case, we got a vehicle. Well, the year, make, and model, you need to provide the detail, and you need to have in-kind receipt, which we do in our file for our faux gifted vehicle. So you save and return, and you see the number for the vehicle, the amount for the vehicle is here. If what we did was we did some other form of activity or something that produced other revenue that has multiple layers, you can actually enter it here from an Excel spreadsheet. You don't have to concern yourself. You don't have to concern yourself. Let me go back in. You don't have to concern yourself with, having columns or anything. You can, if you want to, you can tell it, I want this thing to be this way, but then you are putting in the details like this yourself, one at a time. Generally, if you have multiple, explanation. I lost my explanation. My explanation goes here. So again, generally, if even if you have multiple items, you don't need to put them in all at once. If they're in an Excel spreadsheet, you put it here and it's going to look like a jumble, but the IRS can deal with that. They don't have a problem with it. Just, FYI. So the other revenue, okay, what's going on is that it's thinking that I'm doing a second one, which I'm not. Oh, no, that's wrong. Hold on a second. I just screwed up my total, 750. I just screwed up my balance sheet. Hold on a second.
Hold on a
second. I need to get out to come back in, because if I don't remember what number I had here, it's not going to balance and it's not going to let me file it or full file it. So I need to, it's really interesting. I'm going to log out and then log back in. here to edit. I already, I'm already here in the revenue. Here, here, okay. Please, I lost it. All right, so we're gonna have an issue with the 12,000, with the, I was playing with it, I shouldn't have. 12,750, I think that was the value that we gave the car. So sorry about the runaround. All right, so the total revenue is here with my other revenue. And so here it's telling me investment income is required. Remember that I took out a zero to this is just to show you if there's something that is missing, it won't let you go through. You can skip it, but in this case, we know that it's zero. So we're gonna say next. So here, other expenses. If you'll notice in the expenses, they are categorized here by these numbers. These coincide with these numbers here. So, okay. So item number 16 relates, of course, rent, printing, but item number 16, other expenses, relates to your program expenses. This is how much it costs you to run the program. As I said before, you can just put in the information in here. It doesn't have to be pretty, so long as you're putting in the data, and then put the total amount here. So this is how much it costs us to run the program, and these are all of the this is all of the information that explains where the money's going. Save and return. So that amount shows here, that plus my rent and utilities bill gives me a total yearly expense for the year of 76,272. You go forward, and okay, it was 12,750. So I think we're good. The reason why it's important, and that I look at this number, is when I changed the number before and I couldn't remember what it was. If my net assets on this number don't match the ones after I go through this process, in the next screen, it will be out of balance and it will not let me file it. I know that's just ethereal information. When the year started, I ended up with no car, but then I did receive a vehicle. So that was a change in my net asset and my fund balances. So I put that information here. So that shows here. So my net assets or fund balances at the beginning of the year was that. And then that number here should match this number here. When you get to your net assets and you're gonna go into your balance sheet, the balance sheet tells the IRS, this is what we started with at the beginning of the year, and this is what we ended the year with. If I had any other assets here, it would unbalance this. I would need to figure out where those other balances, those other assets belonged previously, so that it matches with, again, this previous number. Just go on further forward. The primary exempt purpose is, you did good work, whether it's charitable, scientific, educational, religious work. You should include your 501c3 purpose here, whatever is included in your articles of formation, which includes the IRS wording that requires that nobody makes money from the work that you do, and whatever other services you're providing, that goes here. So that's why I always say you can take this information and add to it from your grant narratives. So these are the two program service accomplishments, and I'm happy I'm at this juncture because this is where I get to show you where you put in information, but we're gonna ask Nancy Jakowicz, one of our staff attorneys, to talk a little bit about this and allow any of the participants who may want to share. We just put some of this stuff recently, and would like to get into this with actual audience participation. So without further ado, Nancy, if you will just talk about this segment.
Yes, so this is a section here where you're going to use kind of descriptive language to identify your top 3 accomplishments or more, because you can also add more in the supplemental Schedule O form. But here what you want to do is describe the number of people you served, or kind of the main, describe your main program accomplishments. So for example, last time when we talked, one of the examples we gave was a community-based organization that helps women leaving the prison system, specifically to find housing. So so here what they would describe in the narrative section is kind of assisting, let's say, assisting 20 women with rental assistance for up to a year, including assistance for utilities. And in addition to this kind of descriptive language, they included a dollar amount for which they spent on the expense for that core program. So let's say, let's say they spent $70,000 towards this. They would identify that dollar amount. If they spent more, $90,000 towards this, they would use that figure. They also operated a kind of like a community garden and food assistance program. So they would describe that in the second section. But here where Eliezer's kind of including information in this field, you know, they focus on women in Tarrant County, but specifically who then typically are finding housing in a neighborhood in West Fort Worth. So, but the core focus here is that they're assisting 20 women, up to 20 women per year, participate in their program and receive housing assistance for, you know, up to 12 months of the year. Something else that they do in a kind of second field and possibly funded through a separate grant is helping with job placement assistance, job readiness assistance. And so they would then in that kind of number 2 field, well, here the kind of example I'm trying to use, Eliezer, is their number 1 program service was focusing on housing assistance, right? And then, so I think because the 3 program accomplishments they have is, one is housing assistance, and then a second category is job readiness, right? They would, in order to kind of job readiness, job placement, and then kind of like a third program they operate is a food access, food security project. That's a smaller project, but this is a way, right here, I think this field is all for 1 program service.
Yes.
But if you want, but a better way to do it might be to have each of these as separate units.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know, the housing assistance is going to be their big dollar figure and their main form of assistance.
Right.
In the number 2, if we were to go to another section, so here, see, Eliezer, down below where it says number 2, grants and allocations. Let's say this organization spent $70,000 towards rental assistance for 20 women or so. This is a way that you could put in that dollar amount spent. And if the figure was different, you would put in, you know, the actual figure, right? This number 3 question includes foreign grants. That's typically not going to be something that local groups are going to come across if you receive money from a foreign source. So number 4 here is program service expenses. This is where you would include the dollar amount paid towards rental assistance, right? That's the main core program that this organization provides. And number 2, let's say they had another figure here, probably larger than the 70,000, because in a way that's helping with the administrative costs, right? So, so number 2, grants and allocations. Let's say they receive funding from 3 different sources to pay for this housing program, right? That might be 130,000, 140,000, 150,000, whatever that dollar amount is. But that's kind of describing their main program focus, which is helping their organization is called Opening Doors for Women in Need. And this is kind of their main focus is housing assistance. A second program service accomplishment that they have, which is less in terms of a dollar amount, is this job readiness field or job access field. And so it's participating in job fairs and so on, but also providing assistance with resume, job search, bus passes, kind of things to make finding a job easier and keeping a job easier. So that's a second program amount, not as high of a dollar amount, but still one of their core focuses. So if we were to kind of populate a second field, we would probably include that there. And then a third field would be this food access project. But
well, actually, I just realized that I can't add anything to this because if I do, I'm going to unbalance my thing.
right.
So I'm going to say, let's cancel this. Okay. But yes, anything else that you want to add with that, Nancy?
Well, here we'll just go over these examples that we discussed with some other groups yesterday. One of the local groups that we work with in the Fort Worth area has focused on providing meals for people here during COVID. And so what they've quantified is kind of through a church network. They've quantified that they've provided food assistance to 933 families, and they've identified demographic data. But this is one of their main focuses, providing food as well as kind of hand sanitizer materials and COVID safety information. So that's one of their main expenses. And then another group that we spoke with talked about kind of a similar focus, I think, in Fort Worth and also in Arlington. So this is a place where you use descriptive language to talk about what you're accomplishing, what you've accomplished in the past year, and then also tying that with a dollar amount in terms of expenses. And you want to put your largest program service accomplishment first, and your second, and your third. That's what I have.
All right. Well, thanks, Nancy. I want to thank you for all of that detail. It's important, as Nancy said, that you use descriptive language, that you go, sometimes the organization is doing one thing, but as they're doing that one thing, they're doing a couple of other services that the main service is not accounting for, that you could account for separately. That's what Nancy was referring to when she was saying, well, their main work is housing, then they have the job placement, and then they have, the food portion. So that's how these responses would go. If you only have one main one, then that's the one that you include. You have to have 3. We work with 2 just to give you an idea as to what it is that needs to go in here. So I think we're running along relatively quickly. Let me see. So we are here. So this is where you show off all the work that you did. You can also put in information in here from your grant, colorful language that describes, the plight of the people that you're serving, not just, any information just to say we did work, but no, we serviced families, and then you describe vividly how the service is being provided, and if, as much as you can, provide an impact statement for each one of these. Because if a funder will look at it, they'll be able to relate to it. So it's not, the IRS 990 is not just about numbers. So these are the details that we were just in the details for the program's service expenses for my nonprofit, which I like to, I just use that, but in reality, nobody owns a nonprofit. A nonprofit is uh, an organization that belongs to the public. So it's more accurate to say our nonprofit because it is the community's nonprofit. Some people are charged with the fiduciary duty, which means you need to care for the purpose and the goals and the mission and the vision for this organization, but it's not a person's or a group of people's nonprofit. It belongs to the community. Having said that, the list of officers, directors, trustees, and key employees, I asked Sam yesterday to, oh, hold on a second, to tell us his perception as to why it's important to have uh, a good board of directors and what that actually means. You're muted. You're muted, Sam.
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
A good board of directors is a group of people that work with you to improve the organization. Excuse me. It's a group that, while they may have different opinions, they listen to each other and they act for the best, in the best interest of the organization. Now, it's not simply sitting in a room and talking about things and then going home. These are people that need to volunteer. They need to donate. They need to help other people support the organization. That's what a good board of directors would be. A group of people that acts not only by voting on resolutions, but doing everything that they can individually and collectively to make sure that the organization succeeds. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you. Let me just ask a question on that one, just to be sure that grassroots nonprofits understand the growth process of a board of directors. When you are beginning and you don't really know how they should work, and you do have your bylaws because you have them. What are you looking for on a potential board member? Now, I understand you mentioned what they should be doing, which is volunteering, donating time, and really looking into the purpose. But what should a group look for on a potential board of directors?
They should be looking for people that represent the various constituencies that they serve, both as clients and as donors and as volunteers. So when you're collecting a group of people, it's not all the same people that share all the same values. They're people that represent different groups of people, some represent clients, some represent donors, some represent volunteers, some represent other organizations that are served by your organization. It's a group of people that represent all of the various interests that are vested in your success.
Thank you, Sam. Very well said. So what I did to let the IRS know all the great people that are members of my board of directors, it has to be me. I can edit this, or I can delete it. 1, 2, 3. I have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer that form the basic officers of our nonprofit. Okay, this is the area that I mentioned that most of this information doesn't apply. I'll just point out, did the organization engage in any significant activity not previously reported? This is highlighted in the IRS form. If you put down yes here, then you're going to have to provide additional information and schedules. Uh, did you make any changes to the articles of formation so that you can actually make do other stuff that you shouldn't? Did you make any significant changes to the way that your nonprofit is being run? Things like this. If you have unrelated business gross income, let's say you received $1,100 because you took some of the funding that you had in your nonprofit, and you made an investment, and you made that money. The IRS wants to know about it because it's unrelated to what you're doing. Um, uh, did did your organization terminate? They want to know that. They want to know if you have any political expenditures. They want to know if the organization borrowed or made any loans to any of the officers of the corporation. Uh, they want to know if there's any tax imposed on the organization for having done something that perhaps they shouldn't have. Um, or something that they did that requires that they be taxed, even though they're nonprofit. Uh, 501c3, did the organization engage in excess benefit transactions? Likely you didn't, but an excess benefit transaction is one in which the organization uh, goes into a business deal that financially or asset-wise benefits a person or group of people that are not the main beneficiaries. So the organization took the money, made an investment, and the board membership got some form of benefit out of that, whatever transaction happened. Let me see. Tax imposed on the organization, you would know if you were taxed, if you received money back because you were taxed and you paid too much, you would know that would go here. All organizations during the tax year, did you participate in a prohibited tax shelter transaction? And that's usually done when you have enough money to invest the funding into some form of tax shelter, uh, but you shouldn't be doing that with the funding. So if you did, you want to say yes, and then you have more reporting to do. These are the states that you would like to send a copy of this return to, which we don't. We will be filing it with the Attorney General of Texas, but the Attorney General doesn't actually monitor whatever is in their files. So if you want to say you're registered and all of your 990s are found in the Attorney General's office, you could do that and send them every year. I doubt that if you start sending them that they're going to come after you, pretty much what goes on. So just added work that is not necessary, but it's up to the organization. Okay, so they want to know where the books are. I have them, and this is my contact information. Uh, the organization have interest in or signature on or authority on another financial account in a foreign country. Do I have a bank account somewhere else? And here is, do I have an office outside the United States? And then this is more of those no two questions here. I'll just briefly say, this is a charitable trust, doesn't apply. Uh, uh, did the organization maintain any donor advised funds? Donor advised funds are funds that are received by another organization that is providing the funding to do some kind of work, and you're under sort of like under a contract with them. So if that is the case, you can't file this form. You have to file Form 990. The organization have a control entity. A controlled entity is that the organization actually own another organization, likely for-profit LLC, that it controls it 51%, and it can tell it what to do with whatever funding. So if they can do that with another organization, where they can tell this organization what to do with the funding that they have, then they are a controlling entity. And if you have that as an organization, if your nonprofit owns another organization, then you need to say yes here and explain all these little things. But again, it doesn't apply. I'm sorry, I get into these details and I shouldn't. Did the organization engage directly or indirectly in political campaigning? That's self-explanatory. For me, all these are no. Okay, did the organization engage in lobbying? Any transfers to an exempt organization? Did the organization give assets or funding to another nonprofit? If you say yes, then they want to know uh, if it was a Section 527 organization, which we're not going to get into right now. Did the organization compensate any employee more than 100,000? Did the organization compensate any contractor more than 100,000? Again, those are the same questions as before. Did the organization complete Schedule A? We're going to say yes, and continue. And this is asking for the signing officer. So apparently, I do have signing privileges when I set this up. If I pay somebody to do this work, then they have to provide an ITIN for the IRS preparer tax ID number. If not, then that's sufficient. I'm going to say continue. Reasonable cause for filing late. I was sick. Uh, Actually, that's not a good reason. Uh, the best reason that I've seen has been there was a problem with a flood, which actually rendered all of the papers just you couldn't get the documentation on from the papers. So that was a really good reason. But generally, the IRS doesn't want to know that you have too much work. They want to know that it was because of something outside of my hands, outside of our ability to control, that we didn't file late, and we've done this in order to prevent it from happening again. So that's what goes here. So no, you can't say I was sick. This horrible thing happened. This horrible thing happened, and you pretty much describe what it is. It could be a fire or whatever. It needs to be something big. So don't be in the habit of running late, because if the IRS begins to fine you because of these, they can get pricey. And they didn't used to fine, but I'm learning that they're beginning to fine now. So this horrible thing happened, and we fixed it like this so that it will not happen again. That's what you tell them, and you give them good information, of course. Schedule A basically just it's the public charity status. Uh, this is where most nonprofits that are here today will be checking that they are a public charity organization, because you receive a substantial part of your support from a governmental unit or from the general public. There could be some others that may apply to you. If you're a church, you go here. If you're a school, a hospital. But we already told the IRS we were none of those things. So we put that in there, and then it says to enter the details. So here for 2019, which is when we are starting, this is how much money came in. And then if you put that information up there and you come down here, okay, hold on a second. Total support is that. Okay, first 5 years. If the Form 990 is for the organization's first, second, third, fourth, or fifth tax year, the organization should check this box and stop here. That means that you don't have to continue with the rest of this form. So because this is my first year as a nonprofit, it could be up to 5. These numbers won't change the following year. This will be 2019, this will be 20, but these $55,000 will go here. So as you go along, this is something you'll be filling out, and if you use the same program, the program will actually carry things over. So let's see, complete this part to provide explanation required. So let's say, click to enter. It's asking me to view the explanation, supplemental information. I don't think I needed to put anything in here, so I didn't. I didn't actually put any explanations on there. Schedule O to be completed by organizations that need to provide additional information. So these are the three details that magically happened while we were discussing and putting things into different places before. This is where they show. So I can delete them. These are all explanations. See, I can delete them, or I can go back and check them because I don't have any problems. I'm not gonna, well, let me just show you what they look like. This is the information that I showed before on the other expenses. So anytime that you're providing this information, it doesn't go in the form that we showed you initially. It goes in a different schedule, which in this case is Schedule O. Save and return. We're almost at the end of this. I just want to encourage everybody to please don't lapse into a coma. Okay, so here, what I can mark this as complete. I go to quick jump to do that. I can generate PDFs or I can continue editing. So if I want to see how we're doing as far as the verification, how many errors I have no errors in this verification process. If anything I missed, the numbers didn't match in my balance sheet, it'll give me about 3 links to go fix numbers in 3 different places. So I'm gonna mark the filing as complete. And basically it brings me here. I created a sample 990 EZ. See, signature form. Okay. Okay. Control. Okay. To authentic. Okay, so I'm gonna authenticate. It's fine. So I actually am not going to do this because it's going to actually, I just realized it's going to submit something. I just wanted to show you what it would do, but it just dawned on me, no, Eliezer, not a good idea. So, I mean, it won't go anywhere, but I don't want to flood the system with information that is not relevant. So here I can sign the filing and it'll give me my name and my title and my date. When I click here, I am electronically signing to e-file. So I think that's it. Let me go back to the home. Oh, sorry. Okay. Control panel. Control panel. Oh, I marked it complete. So now I can't go back in to change anything. I can only look. So the system is waiting to authenticate it. It'll probably take it about half an hour. Again, if you have any questions, the system, you'll be able to email support and they can respond. This is what the actual filing looks like. And you notice that if it was not complete, but I wanted to see what it looked like, I could still do that, but it has a watermark that says that this is, that it's not complete. I forget what the wording specifically is, but it has a word cut across here that shows that it's not complete. But this one, you see all of the data that we put in is in here. I want to ask Rosetta if you can check the chat for me. I don't think I've seen any questions, but if you can take that, or if anybody has any questions.
Yes, I've been monitoring it and we don't have any questions right now, but feel free if you all have any questions. This is the time to do it now.
I also wanted to show you, you should have an operating budget. We provided our nonprofits with this template, and the nice thing about this is that it provides you a place to put in your in-kind and your cash donations. Here, you basically put in, the other refers to things that you get. The volunteer time is quantified here. So when you get money or things, they go here, and donated time goes here, and that's your total. And this number gets brought here so that you can see your total operating income and your cash donations and your in-kind donations. So what you see here, that the expenses match the income, because generally in a profit, you show that your budget is balanced. So once you begin to put in items here, this number at the bottom will change so that your expenses are going to meet your income, and some of the income that you see here relates to things that were given as far as time, professional time, and items, as well as cash. All that to say, this is a template that we do have. You can begin to use it because it's all interconnected, so that if your numbers don't match, and let's say you have operating income of $100,000, but then your expenses is 265,000, this will show you that there's something wrong with your numbers, and that's a thing you want to have for your taxes. You want to have your numbers all balanced. So I'm gonna go back to the people that are listening to me who are not yet lapsed into a coma, and if I'd like to ask if you have any questions.
Hello, this is LaRonda. Let me put my face up here real quick. I do have like a series of questions,
Okay.
but I think I would like to kind of do that offline. We're relatively new, so some of this is just going to be kind of getting more familiar about what are some of the things that we need to do and to ensure compliance.
Okay, so you're looking into sort of like governance, basically, in internal ways to ensure that you are running this correctly besides the actual fiscal part, is what you're saying. I mean, that's what
Well, that and just making sure we have the appropriate documentation. You were speaking about, making sure that they have the paperwork for the donations and things like that. Our focus right now has been on just receiving donations. So just making sure we're sending out the right paperwork and that we're getting the right paperwork to send to the IRS should we need to, provide any additional information.
Okay, well, we do have templates, as I've been showing. We have several. We have receipts for when people donate things, and we have receipts for when people donate professional time or just general time. So definitely, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind putting in your name and your email, the name of your organization on the chat. And what I'll do is, Rosetta's gonna help me to make sure that you get all of the information, and we can set up a time later on to talk about, where things go. But what I'd like to know right now is, can you tell me a little bit as to the work that you're doing? Because you should never think little about, new beginnings, because I'm waiting for somebody to show up who's not been able to, because she's out there working. I was talking with her last year. It's a community group, Hope for Kids Foundation, and she and I were discussing how a year ago I was telling her, if you begin doing this in 1 year, you're going to be here and you're going to be able to submit your grant. Well, she just submitted her first grant, and so she's all excited because she was able to finally do it. She the last time that she tried to send out a grant, she missed the deadline because she didn't know what something small was, like a small item that probably would have taken her 10 minutes. But this time she was better prepared. So you might feel as if, yeah, your question might be, too baby for the group that's here, but in reality, it helps us all to hear where you are, to also share what we have, and I'm going to open it up. I do know that there are groups here who have been with us since the very beginning. This is our 9th workshop, and it's been amazing. I'm going to ask Marcus just to address LaRonda. Marcus, if you will talk a little bit about the maintenance of the receipt. You guys have grown exponentially, and when you're just getting donations, you don't think about, oh, I need a receipt, or the donation doesn't exist in my numbers in my fiscal. So, Marcus, are you there?
Right. I'm here.
Anything you can tell us about how good, bad, or indifferent it is from suddenly having to maintain truckloads of receipts and documentation? What can you say about that?
I can say that it's when you don't know about it, it doesn't you don't see the benefit of documenting and keeping paperwork, not only for you, but for the person that's volunteering or donating. It also helps them too. Um, you know, when you see paperwork with your professional letterhead, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel professional. When you're sending those letterheads, those receipts, those in-kind donation receipts out to the people, and you do need those for the 99, because when you're trying to just say you want an SBA loan and you're trying to get $100,000, you're going to have to use that to fill out that paperwork. And that's how CIVN was successful in getting the SBA, by having the documentation and the paperwork. Because I did it by myself, and when I looked at it, I was a little apprehensive at first, but when I went to my taxes and all my paperwork, it was all there, and I just dotted it all in, and that's how easy it was. It would have been really hard if I wouldn't have done my paperwork. So it's very important that you keep that documentation, and then you might want to go back and see who's volunteered and who's donated, and how much time they've done, and who's really supported your organization. You might want to give awards out, and you can't give awards out if you don't know the exact hour somebody has donated or exact amount of in-kind donations or money that they've given you. And so that's very important to keep track of. Uh, and it's wonderful. Yesterday was Commissary's Very Necessary's 1 year anniversary of getting our 501c3, and we'd like to thank Legal Aid for helping us do our paperwork. Last week, we also won Environmental Justice Organization of the Year for the state of Texas from the Lone Star Human Services. And that award we received has a lot to do with the help we received from Legal Aid, Eliezer, and what he told us what would be happening right now a year ago. And so a lot of things he said, most of it has come true. And I mean, it's really bigger than what he said, and greater things have happened than what he said. So I believe that everybody should push forward and keep going.
Thank you, Marcus. I really appreciate it. LaRonda, any other questions, any other item that you may have on your mind?
No, I received your information a couple of weeks ago, and I was able to view your recording from your last session. So I wanted to definitely continue this session and throughout the progress to learn more about, the nonprofit side and what I can learn from you guys and what we can do to better strengthen our organization.
What area do you work in?
Our name of our nonprofit is Empowering, Encouraging, and Equipping. And basically what we do, empowering, equipping, and encouraging. We have established our entity in 2019, which was last year. We're a volunteer working board with no employees. Basically, we have 3 focus areas. We work with the homeless. We have a youth program as well as a reentry program. But the other 2, the youth program as well as the reentry program, haven't been implemented yet. Our focus area right now has been Fort Worth, and we're just receiving donations and then kind of giving them back out. Once we gather and inventory everything, and then kind of right now, we utilize Facebook, social media for our work and word of mouth to get donations. And that's kind of it. I have my other board member, Will Wright, on the line now today. So I wanted to get him involved in too, to kind of get so that everybody's aware of what's going on and that get everybody involved. So if it's not him, it'll be myself as well as other board members that will be attending these webinars.
I appreciate that. I can tell you, I always say nonprofit is a team sport. You have to have team members. You can't, unless you're independently wealthy and you can just go around just throwing money around, you do need to have people who are good at other things. You're going to have people who are good at talking, some people who are good at writing, some people who are good at numbers, some people who are good at convincing people to donate. So you want to surround yourself with all of that. And don't think that, oh, you're too small and you have this program and it's not really out there yet. From my perspective, every single effort of support that anybody out there does for the community makes our community better. So I want to thank you for what you're doing and for being here. And as I said, we have a lot of templates. So I want to make sure that that we stay connected. Give us your email so that I'm able to send you the receipts that we're talking about. And I look forward to learning more about what you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Would anybody else? William, did you want to say anything? William White.
Oh, it's informative. I'm just learning a lot from what's going on.
I appreciate that you're here, and I love the beard.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else, would anybody else like to share a little bit as to what you're doing or have any questions?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Lisa McDaniel, and I'm kind of new at this. I've been doing it forever, but I always did it with passion because I felt like it was a need. So I always just done it. I never thought about 501c3s and 501c3s and paperwork. I just felt like I was in a community, and if a child need to be fed, I fed the child. If the child need to be clothed, I fed the clothes. I clothed the child. So I always just done it. I recently got my 501c3, and so all this stuff I'm listening to you, I'm kind of sitting here like, oh wow. And I applied for my SBA. I never got funding, and I never got funding because I always came out of my pocket because I also have a profit. It's a learning center. So I always took money from my profit and dispersed it out on all the needs of the community. So right now you have given me so much. I actually got a journal over here, and I do need to get with you guys and get involved with you guys because you can have a passion for it and you can have all of that, but you still have to do the documentation and paperwork. So I have started a lot of the paperwork because like I said, I am 501c3. I have started doing my forms and different things like that, but I do need to get involved with you guys webinars. I do need to get involved as far as learning how to put it on paperwork. You can have a heart, but you still have to document. So that we right now, we are servicing Stop 6. And we have fed from March to, as of right now, we have fed probably over 8,400 families. And I just need to get involved. So, because I'll be on the phone with you all day. Because we do a lot. We have a youth center. We have a parent resource center. So we are doing a lot. And the program is called Generation Uplift. So, and I was invited. Yes, sir. And I was invited by LaShonda Davis.
Thank you,
on
LaShonda.
the phone call on today. So I do want to get involved, and this is my passion and this is my heart. But I do want to do, as far as the documentation things, I want to do that stuff right. So that's kind of where I am, and I just want to get involved with you guys. And thank you very much. You got me thinking over here. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Lisa. We really appreciate your enthusiasm and your words. In Puerto Rico, we have a saying, nadie nace sabiendo, which is nobody is born knowing. So yes, we're working on it, on the knowing part. And I really appreciate, again, even if it's in the planning stages, a year from now, what you're doing is going to be touching a lot of people. So yes, when I'm looking at just the different struggles that people are having with the not knowing, that's yes, the easy part. That's the easy part. You get up in the morning, you go out there and you do all this work, and it is all that involvement with the community. You're putting in your energy into the community. That is what actually counts. If you put your heart into it, you're telling you're passionate, you're putting your heart into it. And so because you are, the work has no choice but to grow. And yes, sir. So thank you for being here. We do community education workshops. We've been doing them. This month is 1 year since we started. So I've been waiting for Rose because she also had some things to say. It's an anniversary, and she has been you remind me of her, this other leader from the community, because she was exactly where you are, up to her ears in paper, not knowing where to go. But she kept coming, and little by little understanding. We provided templates, samples, examples for everything. And
Yes, sir.
we are going to, trim the workshop a little bit so it won't be quite as long, and I'll pull out some of the fat and just leave you with the good data so that you can refer back to the actual form and
Yes,
the
sir.
information that we provided.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too. I would like to open uh, the floor. Pat, did you want to say anything or ask anything? Pat Spence. This lady, let me just introduce her real quick. Uh, Pat is the most persistent person I know. I couldn't get her the information. She was just sending me smoke signals. And she needed to be here today, and so I appreciate her very much. So Pat, anything that you like to say, questions, or just any comment on your service area, whatever you like to share.
First of all, I do want to say thank you. But I guess I'm glad that I ran across the information because basically where my church is concerned, they've tasked me with doing their tax preparation. And the Form 990 was something that was a big challenge to me. So that's what attracted me to the group is trying to get acclimated to that Form 990. So I am looking forward to, getting more information and hoping that I can, better serve serve our church. Mostly what I do in the community, if you will, is helping folks out with their taxes, helping folks with their credit restoration and things like that, as well as real estate. So that's basically what I'm doing. So if there's some more things that I can do to kind of be, more of a value, I definitely would like to learn what that could be.
What is the name of your church and what area are they in?
Yes, it's Gift Ministries,
Mhm.
and that's under Bishop Donald Hayes, and we're in that 76108 zip code. It's white settlement, but we're like on the Fort Worth side.
Okay, very good. Well, I do know that you have to go, so thank you for staying with us, and we'll be in touch soon. I'll be
Great.
sending you the materials that we discussed.
Okay, sounds good. Y'all be blessed now.
Thank you, Pat. You too. All right. Anybody else has anything to say? I'm going to ask Bebby. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, you pronounced it correctly.
Thank you. Just tell us a little bit about you. It's the first time you're here, right?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name's Bevy. I am a new legal fellow with CRP. I just graduated. Well, yeah, I just graduated from Loyola University Chicago School of Law. I took the bar earlier this week. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's plenty. Let me just tell you a little bit about this person. Just entered to work with CRP, just fresh new employee, and she's already with us. So I really appreciate your time. I always let everybody know your time is very valuable. That's the only thing that that nobody can take from you. It's yours. And if you're giving it to somebody, they should value and appreciate it. So we just want to say, yes, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right. Then I also have Maisha. Maisha, you were with William, right? With Will.
It's just a secondary device I'm using
Oh,
because it's a
okay.
bigger
Very
iPad.
good. Very good. So very good. All right. So then we have Ashley, who's with CIBN, and Miranda, and Lashonda. Did you want to say anything?
No, not today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to then thank everybody for being here. We're going to be piecing together the video as soon as possible and forwarding it to you. If you have any questions that come up after, don't hesitate to email us back. And our next workshop is going to be the second Saturday of September second Saturday of November 14th. And it's going to be closing around a review of the general areas of the Form 990 and also just going into questions and maybe showing some samples, some different samples about it. I want to thank everybody for your comments, your notes, your emails, and your phone calls. I want to thank everybody for the work that you're doing for our community. You don't see it. It's like you are sitting doing all this work. Perhaps you have three things that you have to do, but you're touching the community. Because of that, we want to help you to work smartly by having the information that is available to you. Everybody at Legal Aid is always very encouraged and happy to be here. So I want to thank Sam, Rosetta, and Nancy, and Steve, our managing attorney, who's also been sitting around listening to us. And I will see you next time. And I'm looking for great reports from everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Eleazar.
Thank you.